Great. Welcome back. This is session 4. It's been a really good morning, really inspiring and learning quite a lot throughout the morning. And this is probably one of those sessions that'll hit hard. I think this is one of the sessions where you'll leave inspired. It'll leave you thinking, and maybe it'll lead you to taking some action. So we are with our panel of families, our panel of parents. These are really the ones who've made a really big decision. They've opened up their homes, they've started opening up their hearts, and it's, again, the stories that you hear are just the ones that leave you with so much food for thought. So this is why this session is really one that'll hit the heart, and let's see where we go from here. So we've got Kay and Holger, and we've got Vivian and Jean, and then Nomjoli. Welcome. Good to have you guys with us. We look forward to your stories and what you'll share. We'll start with Kay and Holger. You recently shared a short video with us on some valuable resources. Could you share some of these resources that you'd recommend maybe to a new foster family, maybe something that worked quite well for you guys?
So start to this. So I think the big learning for us on this journey was that you can't be prepared enough. And I say that because I have an organization called Resilient Kids, and we do a lot of teaching around resilience. What does it mean for a child to be resilient? And I discovered quickly in this journey that it's not enough to just build a child's identity to help them name their feelings, because I'm going to show an example of it just very quickly. So Holger's going to hold my mic. So we get this little child into our lives. We know that this child needs identity, like a strong identity. They must know, I'm a hero, I can do great things, building into the I am of the child. And I teach this child, your feelings are okay. But what if my feelings are so big? What if my feelings are like complete, my anger is so big that even me as a person understands the importance of that, doesn't know what to do with that. And so my big learning on this journey was I need to learn how to help a child regulate their feelings. And so I have to be able to regulate my feelings. It wasn't enough for us to know feelings are good, anger's good, and everything's good. But what if it's really out of line, if it's out of control? Because the goal is to help that child bring to a place of safety. But me as a foster mom, I also need to be safe. And so why resources became and visual little things became so important to me was because safety became key. I need to know I'm safe, and I'm safe to feel, and I'm safe to think. And once I understand the safety principle, then the idea of bringing a child who's out of control to a place of safety is the journey I have to help them take. And so for me, the journey even of myself, because all of a sudden as a mom, what was different between bringing up my biological children, now bringing up foster and adopted children, was their feelings overwhelmed me because they were too big. And so this too big of everything was like, okay, how do we take this big and bring it to a place? And so that journey of like the resourcing around, how do I visually show a child, you're out of control now, and maybe I'm also out of control because I don't know what to do with this, and we don't want to have a place where we get into a power struggle around our emotions. So what does it look like for both of us to bring our emotions into a place of regulation? And so I found what helped us on this journey was then to say to a child, like, we both need to calm down. Your feelings are important, my feelings are important, but we're not going to have a power struggle right now. So when you're ready to talk, or I'm ready to talk, then we'll talk. And I found that talking then with the resourcing, and this is what I brought in the video, like books are so helpful. So I think the more books we get, and I'm hoping that in King Culture we'll have a link to a lot of the books, but there's so many books, like The Go Away Bird is a brilliant book around foster children don't just need a home where they feel love. Love is not enough. The child comes with a lot of story, a lot of trauma, a lot of things around their heart. It's going to take a long time maybe before they're going to turn around and love you back. So you can love them as much as you want. It's not very pretty, and not necessarily. Some kids it's prettier, but many children it's really, really hard journey. And so getting books that help the child distance. Books help distancing. So this bird is going through a hard time. This little boy is going through he's a dragon, but he's going through the foster care system. It's a distancing, but the child relates to the emotions in the story. And then using just little skills to help the child understand, like, we only are safe when we're in control, when we have governance over ourselves. So it's okay to feel many things, but it's not okay to do things with your feelings. It's not okay to hurt others. It's not okay to hurt yourself. And so using books and making emotions okay for a child and having a lot of conversations just help us all learn to regulate. And the regulation, I think, is the big part of these, like a lot of little things that I have, just explain over and over again to this child, your feelings are okay. Feelings are good. But feelings are not good when you're hurting yourself. Feelings are not good when you're hurting others. Feelings are not okay when you're breaking things. But it's the same for me. Because believe me, these kids started triggering me in ways I'd never been triggered before. And all of a sudden I found like, okay, I have to breathe. I have to get into a place of safety. I have to get to a place where I'm regulated and not getting into power struggle with a child who doesn't want to feel my love. And that was key. Because love can't go in. And it took months with some of our children, over one specific child, over 18 months before she turned around and said to us, I love you back.
Sure.
And so it's a long journey.
Wow.
So that's some of the things.
That's really good. I think just the aids or the resources, are so helpful. And sometimes when you can't see your words, you can at least understand with some resources. So maybe the next one you guys could just share with us. How do you prepare your children for big days? Like a court date or visits with the biological family?
I want to share about it. Maybe our story is a little bit different than from some of the other families. So I want to share about what we experienced, and then some things we did right, some things we did wrong. So maybe I want to talk more about how you should prepare your children for court dates, because our story was pretty much at the same time. We took in 4 children from the same home. And when we got there, we were told there's no way these children can ever be reunited with their biological families. And basically, you can take them on, and it will be no problem to foster them till they're 18. And that's what we went on, and that's the story that we expected. And then our first court date, we didn't have to bring the children with, but all of a sudden, because we were told, so the children from the 2 sisters, that the biological parents will not be there, and basically they don't want them back. And the first shock for us was all of a sudden court date, and there were the parents. And then in court, then the judge made very clear to us, we are just the foster parents. And it was a lot more about the biological parents, and especially the dad saying he wants his daughters back. And so the first court date was very different from what we expected. And so the first advice I would give is just preparing yourself as a parent, because maybe some scenarios it is different, but often going into court, you don't know what you're going to get. And you first need to prepare yourself. And because when we took the children in, because we were told the parents don't want them back, we told the children, we're taking you forever. You're going to be our forever family. And then realizing, because we thought it was true, but then realizing if the biological parents do their homeworks, there is actually a real chance that at least some of them will go back. So the one thing I would advise, don't lie to the children, because you don't know what's going to happen. And you can tell them that you love them, and maybe that you want them to stay with you. But then later on, what we learned as well, one thing to prepare the children, because the next court dates, they had to come along, and then they were, previously the parents made all kinds of promises what to do to get the children back, and they didn't do it. And then the second time, especially for the oldest, was very hard, because she was then actually contemplating, do I want to go back to my family? And working that through with a child. And then even one thing that we had to work with our kids especially was then disappointment from court dates, because especially the one she wants to have at least some kind of relationship with the parents, but if the parents don't do the effort to even visit or jump through the hoops that are needed before they can visit, and then just working through the disappointment of that, and that was not easy. And I think anyone going on that journey, that's just things you should consider and work through even before you go on the journey.
Great. Yeah, I could imagine, these days are in the life of a family are really a big deal. And as you said, I think to prepare, as parents, really important. Thanks. So in the previous panel, we spoke quite a bit about attachment and connection. Maybe you guys practically have one or two things to share, on what worked best for you. Maybe, one or two examples of things that you did that worked well.
I think, there's three key things that I remember very clearly. Was every foster parent who takes in a younger child should get a rocking chair. There's something about the magic of a rocking chair. And then that lovely Brahms lullaby. What I found very early on in the journey, and actually listening to Holger now around court dates, it comes up again at court dates, is with Brahms' lullaby. I used to sing a new song over a child every night to that. I cannot sing, but I can rhyme. And I would take whatever happened in the day and I'd rock that child and sing to that child my own made-up song. and somehow you're acknowledging, you're seeing, you're tuning into that child. And then each child gets their own song. And so for me, attachment in the beginning had everything to do with bedtime rituals. Because bedtime's a way to repair, bedtime's a way to apologize that you went out of the circle and maybe shouted at the child, or The reality is we're human beings, and bedtime's a wonderful time to work on attachment. And so we moved at some points in the journey, like 18 months, we moved to the new house, and then it became bedtime stories, and the singing and rocking stuff stopped. But interestingly enough, before court, after court, every now and again you'll put a child to bed and the older one will go, or the younger one will go, Mom, can you sing a song? And they want the lullaby again. And so I've been recently just sang a lullaby again, and then it starts off, I also want one, also want one, also want one, right down the house, and before you know, you're also singing to your 17-year-old. So the joy is of singing, because there's something in the singing, even if it's broken, these kids think you have a beautiful voice because it's about them. And so I found that rocking and singing was very key. And the other thing that I thought was quite fun on our journey, I don't know if it works for anybody else, but this was adapted from Brene Brown speaks about marbles of trust. Okay. So in relationships, that you build marble. So when we ceased to almost be white or German. Holger's German, I'm South African, we have a colored kid, black kid, it's a crazy family, right? And so culture becomes an issue, but it's a wonderful opportunity to do attachment. So using marbles in an extra jar, so we have a glass of marbles back then. So we had the marbles like this in the house, and I said to the kids, we're going to build like a new family, an attachment family. So the way it works is we've got to come up with a new culture, because we're not Lawrences anymore. We don't know what we are. We're still discovering that. But because we're just a big mix-up around attachment. And so I was saying to the kids, what do we want the culture of our family to look like? And then letting them give us the building blocks. And Holger and I are laughing so much, we reminded ourselves of this yesterday, because the most important thing for the four of them, when they sat down and spoke about, Rowan was still a baby, but was we were going to be a clean family. Our family was going to be clean. I was like, that's gone out the window. but just around what were the things that we built into our little family. And then once we had, like, we value cleanliness, which is just funny because that's not true anymore. We live in chaos. But just the things that they brought to us to build the culture of our family, that we suspended our culture in what they said was important. So, and then as they did the culture and as we did the culture, we could give each other marbles. And when the marble jar was full, we had ice cream. So it was a wonderful ability to build a new culture, and like in our home, things that other people were like, so what's the culture of your family? Ours was like cleaning the house and like just silly things. But what was so beautiful about that early attachment journey with our kids was we came up with a culture, like what is our family's culture? And that somehow the kids took ownership very quickly of the family. And I felt like the marble journey yesterday when Holger and I were talking about it was part of that.
Great. Yeah, there are some gems just in there, so thanks for that. Maybe just to, as we kind of round off your set of questions, would you care to just share a story that impacted you as a family? You know, it would probably be one of those important stories, or, you know, maybe something that you enjoyed, or a memory that you made.
Okay, before that, I'm going to list just a few things so that everyone can actually have a real honest what you're going to get when you take on children. And so what definitely was added to our family is noise, chaos, laundry, the amount of food, stress, expenses, broken stuff. The most expensive one was our relatively new flat screen TV.
Oh, wow.
All of a sudden, the one daughter threw something and then the screen cracked. Or our furniture, because with trauma back, there were maybe a little hole, and the holes got bigger and bigger in the furniture, and long time sitting in clinics, in therapy appointments, and just the amount of driving. But there's also a lot more joy, a lot more laughter, hugs and kisses, more love, and also for our family, we can see just God's provision is amazing, because we definitely did not have the resources, but God has been adding to it. And then I want to add one amazing story, what our oldest foster child has added, because we mentioned before we are a family in ministry, and at the beginning of the hard lockdown, and then obviously it was said, everyone stay in your home, no school, nothing, teach your kids at home. And we did that for 3 weeks, and I think everyone, even our supporters, would have been very understanding had we just continued, because I can tell you, with the other ones, having 6 children at home and trying to entertain them and feed them, and that's a full-time job in itself. But then around 3 weeks, starting to hear stories about there is so much hunger out there and people don't have food. And my reaction at the beginning was, I really felt compassion, but I was more on the side, what can I do? I have this family to take care of, and I don't have much extra resources, so there's not much I can do. And then Kay was sharing with the children about just what's going on out there, and then at one prayer time, back then she was 9 years old, she prayed, God, please give money, provision for our family to feed the hungry. And that's how it all started. And then, to keep it short, then conversation started, and I actually looked at the numbers, and now we are 2 million rand later. We supported 25 plus soup kitchens. did food parcels last week. I ordered at Macro for $250,000 to send a truck for 620 child-headed households in KZN.
Wow.
And there's so many stories, and it started with a 9-year-old praying that God would provide, and with an awesome God, that's what he did. Probably eventually, even without our 9-year-old, we would have caught up and probably something would have happened as well, but in our family, we know it all started with that prayer.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I think just hearing, you know, your testimony and just hearing where it all started, you know, and oftentimes that's the beautiful part of what children bring into our families. You know, we just very real and very honest, you know, in something small. So just asking, you know, praying, what can we do? So that's great. Thanks for sharing, Colonel Holger. We really appreciate it, and also the work that you do, and all the best. Vivian, if we can jump to you real quick. So you took in a teenager. So there are always, you know, some challenges and even negative stories that one hears about taking in a teenager into foster care. Could you share a story, an uplifting story with us about your journey and about taking in a teenager?
Yeah, let me start at the beginning. I'm married to a wonderful woman called Rosemary, and even before we got married, we've felt like we're going to have our own children, but both of our hearts was to foster or to adopt eventually. And my firstborn, Mia, was born, and 2 years later, Jar came. And at the age of 2 years old, we've decided to go and test the waters and see where we can start with the adoption or with the fostering. And it took us 5 years. And every time we started, things didn't work out. But we truly believed that the time will come. And then in 2013, we went and done the fostering course at Bedisa in Bellville. And that's where our hearts was just burnt with love. And a few months later, we've met this small little baby called Nikita. And we started fostering her for about a year. And then it just fall into place, and we could have adopted her as well. And but we thought our journey ended there, and then obviously still had a heart for children, but never really thought much about that afterwards. And then when we moved to Wellington in 2017, my daughter had this friend that was in the Andrew Murray home orphanage, and we again became weekend and holiday parents for her. And after a few years, again, we felt that on our hearts that we wanted to play a bigger role. And I remember we as a family were like watching this movie, Instant Family. And and as we watched it, you could just see how God just touched each and every one of us concerning Amy. And at that stage, she was 15 years old, and both of us just felt like, you know, it's not just this time that she needs a family, but also after she's finished with school. And so we started the journey to put into place the fostering. And then last year, we got the good news that we can get Amy in December. But a few weeks before she came, they called us in and they wanted to talk to us. And then they gave us the news that Amy got pregnant, and she was at that stage 16 years old. And but the thing was with us as a family, we knew, and even the children, that Amy was going to be part of our family, and that didn't really make any difference. And she came December, the middle of December, and so I took, me and my wife took her for a scan, and then we've realized it's twins. And then suddenly from just taking in one, there was like 3 coming. And but we are blessed to have a beautiful home. There was place there. There's also a massive support from our church family, excitement just to see how people just can come together. And then in March, there was a friend of Amy that was also in an orphanage that went through a difficult time, and Amy invited her to come and sleep over. And a long story short, she became 18 that Monday, and she just decided she's not going to go back to the orphanage. And so, long story short, we went and spent some time with social workers and teachers at the school, and we thought that we just going to do it short term, just take it in for a while and then try to see if we can get to the hostel or something else. And after a few weeks, my wife just said to me, you know what, we're not going to send her away. And so then we realized that just in a question of a few months, God can turn our small family of 5 into 9. The twins was born a month and a half ago, and I think personally I was really nervous. Let's say I was afraid. There was fear because I know what it is to have one baby and now to have twins, and just the fear of how is this going to impact and influence. Now I've got 4 teenagers in the home. And that in itself is a lot of wisdom and communication and love that needs to go in there. And again, I just saw how the impact of having a community, a spiritual family, people that loves us. You talked about provision that you've also experienced, because none of this was made out of a decision of, okay, I think we can do it. Every time it was like, God, how are we going to do this? And I've experienced so much wisdom. I saw God's provision, and all things just really work out for the good just because we love God. And that's the thing that stood out for me concerning the teenagers, because I was nervous. But it also just helps us as a family to really work on our communication. Really to have one-on-one with each child that's in the home to see where they are at, and all the challenges that comes with it. There's so much grace, and it really at this stage I can really say we are blessed as a family.
Yeah, that's great. By the way, you're not looking too bad for a grandpa yourself, so well done on that.
Thank you.
Maybe just if we just look at, so you've got 4 teenagers. So if I'm correct, 2 of them, so you've obviously got a good mix of your own children, biological, as well as children you've taken into care. Maybe just speak into how do you, I mean, I would imagine you might have had some challenges, or areas you needed to navigate. How do you do that? How's your experience been in that, or has it been plain sailing?
It wasn't plain sailing. There's a lot of challenges, specifically with the new children that comes in, that we needed to sit not just with myself and my wife, with some of our spiritual leaders to get some wisdom, but we also pulled in some psychologists as well, because each one of them also needs to journey through their rejection and their pain and their confusion concerning how do they fit into this family. There was a lot of power struggle. Who's the eldest, or who's the all that stuff that we also needed to figure out. And But again, if I look back, I can see how God prepared us for this. Because like 10 years ago, even more 14, 15 years ago, we had a Bible school, and there was a lot of teenagers in 18, 19 years old that God just prepared our hearts how to deal with them, wisdom, how to guide them, and taking them through their personal pain and struggles and guiding them. And if it wasn't for that, I think that experience helped us with, but I couldn't have done it with people that give us wisdom, people that pray for us, people that we can go to for insight or for wisdom. And for me, that's the key.
That's great. And that kind of leads into like my next question, which would also be the last question to you, Vivian. You know, they say hindsight is a perfect science, right? So what would you say, you know, maybe to prospective parents or, you know, maybe to someone watching, you know, any tips, you know, that maybe you said you were quite fearful, you know, during one daughter's pregnancy, you know, but maybe even before that, you know, things that you thought you would do or that you weren't prepared for, that you wish you knew, or you wish that someone maybe told you. I mean, some of them would obviously be positive, maybe some of them you wish you knew X, Y, Z. Give us a few.
Yeah, I must say, I would not change anything. Our journey fell into place. In fact, I really feel privileged to be part of their story. I even told my family, because obviously now they are concerned how are we coping with the twins, the babies, with the children, their schoolwork, their challenges, and I just said to them, I think when for us as a family, we needed to find out from God, is this the decision that we needed to make? Is He in this? And for us, there was like just a spiritual guidance and a confidence and a knowing, and then it helps with the battles that you face and that you go through. And I just told my family, listen, it really feels effortless in spite of the challenges. It feels like things are falling into place, and at this stage, and I know it's early days, but at this stage we can see how God is already providing for the future. We can see how things are falling into place concerning the teenagers, but also the twins. And there's just the scripture that we just keep on holding on to is to trust the Lord your God with all your heart, to not lean on your own understanding, because if we truly went on our understanding, I think we would have missed out on the blessing and the joy and the grace that we are experiencing through this journey.
Great, thanks. That's so good. You know, I think that scripture, you know, when you said with trust in the Lord with all your heart, I think in this phase, or, you know, doing what you do, it takes on like a totally new dimension. So thanks for that. So really appreciate your time. We'll move on to Jean Manuel. I'm going to just ask you just to give a quick 60-second intro, and then I'll ask you the first question, so you can just go right into that. You know, so when you take a child into your care, you know, those first moments or the connection that one wants to form is obviously quite important, and we've heard again quite a bit about that today. Maybe if you could just share about that, you know, some things that you maybe learned or that you've experienced about building connection with a child placed in your care.
Okay, I'm Jean Manuel. I'm 57. I'm staying in Ravensmead. Since 2008, I became foster parents. My children is grown up. They're out of the house already. Firstly, I don't feel sorry for a child. I feel that it's a human being, and I have to take care of that child. So a child parent I can never be, but I can help the child to cope, to grow up and to live without the parent with my contact and my support. That is how I feel. I don't entertain bad behavior, but I rather prefer to educate them about the good and the bad about life. And I never sugarcoat the truth. It's either you do it or you don't. There's no white lie about me, about it. And I always reward good behavior. Never expect a child to be perfect. Yes, they do make mistakes, but if their behavior is good, then I reward them appropriately.
That's good. So I see, you've obviously done quite a lot of work in this area, and you understand children, you understand raising children.
My
It's not a
personal experience about children.
Yeah, it looks like you've got a lot of personal experience, I can tell. And there's obviously a lot of things that you've learned along the way, and I think what you've said is quite interesting. And with that, I guess, the focus is obviously always on children, but maybe if you just answer the next one in terms of, how do you take care of yourself, or how do you take care of those others around you who are not children in your care? Because it can take a lot of your time, and it can take a lot of effort. Like does parenting any child does. So how do you take care of yourself?
Myself, if I don't take care of myself, how can I take care of them? Firstly, is that I introduce them to my family. I take them to church, and my own children. Firstly, I have them to accept these children. So if we accept them and we give them the opportunity as a God gives to be on earth, to have the belonging, they must belong to us. It's not the foster child as a God gives. So it's our child. As I raise my children, I would like to do the best for them also. So, as I told you, I don't... how can I put it? It's a gift from God. So it's my responsibility. If the parent is not there, or the parent is not capable in my case, then I have to have the responsibility of being capable of bringing that child up to be a good human being when he's bigger. And I accomplished that because one of my foster children is 18. He had to go out 3-4 years back, but he's standing on his own. It's the way you raise them, it's the way you interact with them, it's the way you support them, it's the way you conduct yourself. Family and friends, we go on outings. I play with the babies. I have different age groups. They have different characters. I play with babies on the floor with them. I play with the toddlers with puzzles. With the bigger ones, we have dominoes. We have fun, yet, but I also make time to educate them, especially the bad in our communities. So that when they grow up, they're 18, they don't have to come back and rely on me. They can stand on their own feet. And that is not easy, but it is possible.
No, that's good. I like your last words. It is possible, and
It's possible.
just to take a look again at one of the points that I heard that you said that I think is quite important. Is creating safety.
Yes.
In your home. Showing them around, introducing them to family. So really just creating safety is so important. I think just to ask you to share on maybe a story that's impacted your life, maybe one of the children that you've cared for, or maybe something that you've seen. Could you just share, one short story that's impacted you, yeah?
I'm a very open person. On the age of 10, I believe we must learn the girls about sex. And we must learn the boys about the drugs. Now, I've got boys and girls in my care. Now, I've got a little boy. He's 15 years of age. 2 weeks back, in my community, it's the norm that they smoke daha. And he is surrounded with his friends outside. So I educated him in my home since the age of 10. What the bads and the don'ts and the do's about all these substance abuse. Then he had a friend, or someone befriended him that was on this drugs. And because I show him, look at that person, Look at the life of those who are on substance abuse and look at the life of those who are not. There's a difference. You must actually show. You can't just talk. You must have your facts and you must prove to them. So me talking, educating him, he educated his friend. And I thank God because his friend could see the way I see it and I brought it to his attention and he to the friend is not on there. So there's quite a few friends that quit the smoking and that is what I value because it proves to you that you can, as a foster parent, you can make a difference. It's your way of contact. If I smoke cigarettes, how can I tell the child, no, it's bad to smoke cigarettes? You see what I'm trying to tell you? So your conduct must be appropriate so that the child can learn.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
good.
monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
You pray, the child pray. If you read the Bible, the child adapt to it. If you, on a Christian level, the child adopted.
Yes, no, that's good. Thank you so much. Some really interesting and gold nuggets in there that you've just shared. So really appreciate it. We'd like to move on, Nomjoli, to you, just to hear your story and how you've journeyed in this area. So what motivated you to start walking this road?
Oh, my name is Nomjoli. I'm 47 years old. I have 3 biological kids, and I fostered 7. And I started fostering in 2010 after me and my ex-husband were separated. After I saw what happened between us, I saw the way my kids were devastated. So I sat down with them, thinking of the kids, how they feel right now by the time they don't have a father. Thinking of the kids that they don't have a mother, they don't have a father. So I have to sit down with them, discuss the situation, about how are they feeling, about the kids that lost their moms, they lost their dads. So I sat with them talking about this matter, and I told them I'm thinking of something, of bringing another people that are going to stay with us in our home. Now they were happy to hear that in such a way that I did have some of the kids that I normally took from the other members from our church to come visit us on the weekends and all that stuff. Luckily, there were 3 siblings that were in the same church with their parents. So I decided to bring them on the weekends sometimes so that they can be used on each other, to play together, to share everything that we have in our house by then. So they told me, Mama, it's the right thing because we feel now, because at the beginning we didn't know how are the other kids suffering. As this thing of our father, it did make us a big thing in our lives. So we took 3 girls with us. So they were happy to have them in their life, taking each other as a sibling, as we believe that you don't have to be the same blood to be the family. So it was our belief, only the love that we're going to share together is going to make things grow between us, to develop love, to develop everything that is making the family to be happy. So we took that 3, we were happy together. On the long run, we were 7. Then we had more of other siblings again. So we became 11. So also we were happy to have them in our lives because we always have a meeting. I don't treat a child, if I bring the child in my home, I don't treat a child as a child. I have that conversation as a big person, how you feel now, how's life treating you, what do you think we can do to overcome these obstacles that are in front of us? Then we have that all the time. We have the family meetings, like I'm talking to big people, because I believe that God created a person once, but it's only the stages of life that make us the big people or the young or the small people. Then we sit together as a family, as happy as we are even today. I feel so blessed, really, to have such a wonderful people to call me mom. Even at school, if they said guardian or foster mom, I said, no, I'm not a foster mom. I'm not a guardian, I'm a mother. I remember the other time, the first day I came from court with the other one, the last set of my children. They said, what is your name? I was asking myself, how must I tell this child my name? I said, my name is Mama. From that day, because I know I'm going to give joy to them. I'm going to give what is missing in their lives. I always ask God for wisdom for everything that I'm going to do, that please God give me a guardians so that I must, even if I'm going to, in which case that I'm going to face, just give me wisdom on everything.
No, that's good. Wow, I really liked just how practical and real it is, you know, like children asking, what do we call you? That's so beautiful. So we're kind of running out of time, so I'm going to ask you to, in like literally 2 minutes, maybe just tell us, like your support around you. How did you go about that? I think you touched on some of it, you know, but obviously, you know, you might have your church community that's around you, your friends or family. You know, how do you go about with your support network? If that's, you know, if there might be situations or scenarios where that might be applicable.
You see, the support I got my support from my family most of the times, because it's not supposed to be money all the time. Even by the time that you don't agree with the child, there's differences between you and the child as a foster mom. I know that I'm going to be able to go to my family for the advice that I must take. Most of the things in my life, I put God first in everything that I'm doing with my children. So I don't get anything from anywhere. Only my family just provide me with, because I did make sure that I mustn't exclude my foster kids to my kids. They must know that these are all my children. Even what kind of a color it is, they must know they must treat these children the same as the way they're going to treat my biological children.
Yeah. That's really good. Thank you. Really appreciate you sharing your story and lots to learn from you and you know, just what you've shared. We're going to jump into some questions which we've received. We are running a bit behind time, so excuse me if I rush you guys on a little bit at any time. The first question, which maybe Kay and Vivian, if you guys would just like to comment on, you know, what would you recommend if your biological and adopted or foster child don't really get along? You know, have you experienced that? How can you facilitate maybe certain situations, you know, or maybe not even get along, but where there's maybe a bit of conflict? Either one of you, if it's that easy.
Yeah, it happened a few months ago that there was obviously conflict between my eldest biological child and one of the other children, and it was normal stuff, and we usually have once a week a family meeting, because we've realized it's important obviously to communicate. There's house values that we have, there's duties, but through it all there's always stuff that can maybe irritate somebody in the house concerning just the way that they do it or the way that they pack out the dishwasher, and you can start seeing that it builds up. And then we deal with issues by sitting them down, talking about what's the problem, because then suddenly you will see they will just stop talking to one another. And it's for us important to deal with it on the moment, not just wait a while. We need to address it, we need to talk about it, and then we sort it out. But I think through it all we've realized it's also important to sit down with them individually, and so that we can guide them through what's going on in their hearts concerning the issue. And with Megan it was easy, but with Mia, my biological child, it was one of the best moments for us as parents, just to talk through how do you deal with offense, or how do you deal with fear concerning issues in the heart, and just to ask God to help you to love a person that you struggle with. And she came back a few weeks later and just gave just a little bit of a testimony to us, how God just softened her heart, how God just showed her how to come with the opposite spirit, how to start serving her, blessing her, doing stuff that irritated her a few months ago. Now he turned it around, that she started becoming a blessing. And for me that was just beautiful to see, because each child is different, and how they're going to handle stuff, and it's for me just beautiful, just conflict that looks like, okay, I'm concerned about this, how God can turn it around and even form their character.
Great. Yeah, sorry, Kay, I have a very good question for you guys. I'm just quickly going to jump in with the part B. Vivian, to you, are you ever worried that your teenager will bring things into your home that might affect your biological children?
Yeah, we always worried about that, and but that's also we really pray, obviously, for protection. We pray for even insight, even before it happens. We obviously got a good relationship with our biological children, to trust us, to bring stuff when they're concerned about their siblings. But at the end of the day, I'm not nervous, because I know that what has happened with our family now, it really strengthens each one of their characters. There's a lot of life lessons that they learn. My biological children can learn, and usually parents, when they bring foster kids in, the first fear is, how is that going to influence my children? And the last few months, I actually saw it's one of the best gifts that we can give our children, our biological children, to open up our home, so that it can strengthen their worldview, it can strengthen their character, it can strengthen their love for their neighbor or for one another, and the issues of concerns that we have. It's actually amazing to see, obviously, if you pray, that God can protect you. But if it doesn't, there's still a safety net for them. And that's what I've seen this last few months. Every time one of them mess up or make wrong decisions, there's like they come to us for help, or they are not afraid to come with their issues or their struggles or their wrong choices. And for me at this stage, there's still that safety net, and I'm blessed to see how it still works out.
Great, very valuable, thanks. Okay, so the next one to Kay and Holger, and then Jean as well, maybe like a 60-second answers. How do you cope or act when children are acting out? Like, what do you do in the moment? Just to clarify, kind of by acting out, it might be like a conflict situation, or maybe not getting what they wanted, or, You know, any 60-second tips, you know, on how you've dealt with that or what you've experienced?
It's depending on the child's age. You know, the smaller ones, they must normally throw tantrums. And then you have to educate them in a calm manner. And the bigger ones, they must not into that. You know, you don't know, you're not our mother, that type of. Then you get professional help if you can't. But these are in Paro-Pichon, those social workers, they know, I go there. I'm not proficient in everything. I'm not perfect. The child is not perfect. But there is professional help for them. You know, there is maybe a social worker can speak to them, or a pastor can speak to them, or maybe the teacher, if it's a severe cases, then I'll go find out. I don't sit with the problem. I'll first see if I can solve it. If me and my husband can't, then we go and ask for help.
Yeah.
How can we better this child understanding? Because as now this child is throwing tantrums, he wanted his way or her way, and it's the wrong way. So how can we change the mindsetting? You see? Thank you.
Great. Okay, Holger, do you guys have anything to add?
So I think for me, one of the very helpful things was that circle of attunement in a family. So ideally, we would want a happy family all the time. There's lots of joy, you know, shalom. It'd be so wonderful, right? But we had to accept that actually it's probably more likely that it's going to be a disrepair more than it's going to be a repair. So conflict's normal, and a child acting out's normal because of the nature of the family we have. And it's not always the foster kids or adopted kids. Sometimes your biological children who are acting out, right? And so I think for me it was like learning around, okay, this is normal, this is okay, we'll overcome this. It's not the end of the world. Because for me it was like, you've ruined my family.
The perfect picture.
My perfect picture. And how it's going to just be so easy, right? And it's not easy. So I think that whole thing around, for me, what really worked was understanding, like, yes, shalom and peace and having everything attuned and love, joy, peace, patience, you know, all the fruit of the Spirit in your family is ideal. But it's likely that takes deliberate effort. That needs work. That doesn't just happen. It doesn't matter how much you speak to Jesus. It doesn't matter what you've done with your life. That's not a given. Disrepair is probably more the given. And so the more we understand that conflict is a normal part of life, and in our family what's really worked for us is to help the children understand that circle that I used earlier belongs to you. It's your job to govern yourself, and it's not anybody else's job to govern you. So conflict often comes from she's not thinking what I wanted to think, and she's not doing what I wanted to do, and she's not feeling what I wanted to feel. And so helping children understand the differentiation between them.
Yeah.
Like, so you can't make another person do what you want them to do. The only thing you can do is work on yourself. So you're unhappy about it. It's your unhappiness. It's your responsibility to get happy again.
Yeah.
And so working a lot with the concept of self-governance in our family, because a lot of conflict comes from boundary violations. So understanding that children have a right to a boundary line, they have a right to stuff, but that's not given. People will, this is now and forever, and right up until you die, someone will be violating your boundaries.
Yeah.
What you have to need to be aware of is being responsible with your reaction to that. And so conflict, we didn't fight as much as we do now, but we have this wonderful family because they give us things to have conflicts about every single day. Every single day there's something that could potentially bring conflict to us. It's learning again, it's not Holger's responsibility to make me happy, it's not my responsibility to make him happy. So the circle of repair, the deliberate is learning, teaching children when is it right to say, I'm sorry. Because you actually hurt her. Yes, you didn't mean to, but you hurt her. That's very hard. Or, please forgive me. And in that space, the restitution, to bring it back to a place of peace. And then enjoy the peace for 10 minutes until they've destroyed it.
Yeah, that's
So this whole journey of the repair, the beauty, the conflict, the repair that takes work, you know, and effort and talking and sitting with that individual child. And sometimes it's taking two child for a milkshake. Sometimes it's one child. Sometimes it's all of them. Sometimes you just have to get outside in nature and let them climb a big rock, and it's hard and they have to help each other. But all the time you're thinking around where are we as a family? The ideal is this beautiful repair, but it's exhausting. And the thing is to keep ourselves energized around repairing it when we need to. Because if we don't, the disconnect's we're just going to go there all the time. We're going to go there all the time because it's just swept under the carpet. It's not dealt with.
Yeah,
So
that's
this
good.
repair circle is so important.
Thanks. That's a nice power-packed answer. I think there's so much in terms of awareness and just in those processes. So thank you for that. And maybe Nomjoli and even Vivian, maybe one for you guys. How did your extended families respond to the children that you took in? Maybe again a quick 60 seconds from each.
My family, that I can call it extended family, they didn't see anything wrong of what I did. They love my children the way I love them. They didn't give me hard times, or else if I'm gonna go to them with a story, they're gonna say, no, we're not involved on what you did tried. So they always try to give the best for me and my kids. They're very supportive on everything that we're doing. They showed that we are the best family in the world.
Great. Vivian, a quick 60 seconds from you. How did your extended family respond?
Yeah, there was definitely concerns, specifically from our parents' side. I think there was like more concerns about how that's going to impact our biological kids, and also obviously finances. That's the number one concern that they usually have, because I think even for us, we knew that we needed to take a step of faith. But it's amazing to see how all those concerns quickly just went out of the window, and their joy that they also experiencing through this family and what we went through specifically this last year is beautiful to see.
Great, thanks. And then the last question, which I'll put on the table for anyone to answer. We'll make those 30-second answers, so you can give it some thought. I would like to start fostering, but I'm scared about it if I'll be able to do this. When do you know that you are ready? Or when was that moment when you decided, okay, let's do this? Sorry, just grab your mic.
When I saw the kids and I saw the need, and then the social workers explained to me that their parents is not capable of, then I feel it's just a godly privilege, because it's such a blessing to raise them. Yeah, they do have their moments, but if you can deal with it, then it's fine.
Great, thanks.
Thank you so much.
With us, God has definitely been working with us in our hearts for a while before we started, and then the definite point when we're ready is when our whole family was ready and said, yeah, let's do that.
Great.
Yeah, we also went from taking not just myself and my wife and the children, but we also brought in the children to help. But with Megan, it just happened. So there wasn't really a time of unity, of saying, listen, are we sure we need to do it? It just happened. So that just showed me that's not always that you will feel ready. Sometimes you just need to step out in faith and do it, and things will fall into place, and that's what we've experienced.
Great.
For me, it was something that was deep down in my heart, loving the kids. Because I said to myself, if I have extra rooms that my kids are not using, why can't I take the other children so that they can have the place that they're gonna call it home?
Great. Thanks. And then I'm just going to finish off with this one. Kay and Holger, 60-second one, I'll give you 60 seconds. And that would be, how did your biological children respond to, because it wasn't just one, it wasn't just two or four of them. How did they respond?
Yeah, I think our biological children, we could blame them. So that always helps, right? So when I
They're
felt
not
God,
here.
yeah, no, but like on the journey, because when God challenged my heart first, I mean, it was a journey. We kind of knew when we first married we were going to adopt or foster at some point, and then you put it off for years and years. You're waiting for the right time, the right time. And then I went to a foster care conference I can't even remember the year now, my brain. But I felt God challenged me around when are you going to open your home? And I was like, God, when my children are ready. And so I had this whole conversation in my head with God. Like I was too scared because I knew He wanted to adopt. And He told me when I married Him, He's going to have 16 children. So I was too scared to tell Him that God had challenged me. And so I waited for the moment for our kids to bring it, right? And then when Mariah, our oldest daughter, was in grade 11, she came downstairs one day, I was sitting at the table, and she said to me, Mom, why have we never adopted? And I was like, well, let me start. I was like, we don't have a big enough house, we don't have a big enough car, we don't have a blah, blah, blah. And then she turned around in a very Mariah style and said to me, I knew it, you guys don't have the faith. And she ran back upstairs. And I was like, we don't have the faith, but maybe she's right. And so that night at the dinner table with our biological children, I said to them, like, hey, you guys open to adopt? And I was shocked because they were all open. And I realized I was the blockage in the family. They were all ready. And so that journey of like, it hasn't been easy, but we can keep revisiting the way it started, how it happened, how God provided in the beginning, how He spoke to us. Always revisiting those first things, right? We were not ready. We were never ready. It doesn't work like that. It's a faith journey, right? It's a matter of saying, yes, God, I'm going to open my home. And when you do that, it's amazing what will happen. Some of it absolutely does not go the way you expect it to happen, even for your biological children. But what Vivian brought was so profound, because we're not developing their characters. God's developing their characters. If it was all easy, we had everything, the provision was there every single day, it would be shortchanged on their journeys. These kids have to trust God for huge things in their futures. And so the faith journeys we're on, the provision we're on, even with our biological children, I always say, children have had bigger difficulties in their life, and some of that our own biological children experience that because of the journey we've taken them on. It helps if they came on the journey. It also helps for them to understand that God is teaching them stuff and they're learning stuff and they're going to do greater exploits. And so I think it's got to do with what Vivian says, like sitting and talking. It's communication. It's books. It's like it's just kind of keeping the openness again. Bring back to just now, like, when there's conflict and it's not going the way we wanted, or we have the day when we think, why did we do this? Because you have those days. It's not pushing that, why did we do it under the cross? It's having a conversation with your biological children. And finding out some days are harder than other days. But I've been amazed by my biological children, how they've got me through, specifically recently a day where I was just like, why? And my biological daughter said to me, because, Mom, look at these beautiful children. I was like, yeah, let's look again, right?
That's awesome, yeah.
So when you go on with the journey with your children, that you become a support to each other. And so that's what's beautiful about it.
Great. Thanks for sharing. That's such a beautiful story. Thanks everyone for joining us for this panel. You know, the thing I find so encouraging is, you know, this isn't the academic panel, this isn't the professionals, you know, these are really you guys, day in, day out, loving children, loving your families, and doing it so well. So thank you very much. Wow, we've come to the end of Foster Conference 2021. The morning has flown by. I can't believe we're done. So I believe that in this session and the sessions just before that, we've all learned so much, and there was so much thinking going on, so much note-taking going on. I'm sure everyone at home has lots to ponder. Before I forget, we would just like to, again, thank you to our panels and our speakers who've joined us for this day. Thank you to Rick and Lisa. It's really been a privilege to have had you guys on for this conference. And then the rock stars of this show, almost. I shouldn't say that, but we've had an awesome technical team. You know, they've spent not only this morning, but the weeks before this, we've irritated them with many requests and phone calls and voice notes. To our camera guys and our crew, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And may you guys be blessed in your businesses as well. And to our partners, Badisa and Stelke, thanks for coming on this journey with us. We look forward to many more years of partnering with you guys. Thank you to this church, Shofar Durbanville. It's really been a story of a church opening their heart to the community. So to the leadership of this church, thank you very much. And then also to the staff of Kin Culture who's been here this morning on the day, really serving and going out of your way. And then World Foster Day, 31 May 2022 would obviously be the next World Foster Day. And this is really a day which we would like to encourage and share some stories of how communities and churches and organizations within which these families in foster care really live. We would just to honor these families and to celebrate them. And there are many good ways to do this and many practical ways, but we would like to share the message of World Foster Day and invite everyone watching and organizations represented and churches represented to get on board with this day and really create awareness and celebrate families in foster care. There are many ways to do that. You can follow World Foster Day on social media and online. You can also get a lot of information using the hashtag World Foster Day. We look forward to seeing and meeting all of you guys on the next World Foster Day, which would obviously be next year. If you're here today and you'd like to know more about becoming a foster parent, you've heard a lot, you've got lots of thinking to do. If you'd like more information on becoming a foster parent or you'd like to take the first step in that journey, please do email Kin Culture on info@kinculture.org. Or maybe you would like to ask a few questions, you'd like to become more involved in the foster care community. In whichever way, there are many ways to support. You are also welcome to contact Kin Culture on info@kinculture, that's KIN culture.org. And again, thank you for joining us this morning. We've really enjoyed this conference, and go well and stay healthy in this time. Thank you very much.